Dear Heavenly Father, I'd just like to thank you for everything that you have given us on this beautiful day, this week, this month, and so far this year. I'd also ask that you help us keep our hearts and our opens to you when we're on this podcast, and anytime we talk about you, we talk in all glory to you. Also ask that you help us try to stay as truthful as possible, and I pray that everything will always be okay no matter what. Please forgive us for all our sins, and in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Welcome back, guys,
Welcome back.
to the Skeptics Podcast number 23.
Woo!
Feels weird not doing it without the headphones on.
I know it is, isn't it?
Yeah. So, hope everybody's having a good one. It's weird to say that, we talk a lot about like kind of world events and stuff of that nature. A lot with self-improvement too.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not forgetting what we always start with. But it doesn't seem like I've had to worry about it as much now. We might get into it a little bit. But before, John Boy.
Yeah.
The John Reeves.
Yes, sir. That's me.
How's it been, brother?
Even better. Last time I felt like I was kind of given a little bit more insight than I might have traditionally. And so I've worked through a lot more of my stuff, and I'm actually doing really good today.
Right on. I've had a pretty good day too,
That's awesome.
as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a conspiracy or not, but the sun was out a lot more today. I mean, you were inside a lot more, but you could see through the windows.
Yeah.
And I was recently listening to another podcast where it's funny, we were talking about this before, and this guy was talking about, everybody should be getting sunlight some part of the day. And I thought, I probably actually am not too far off because I'm in a car with windows. He's like, nah, them windows cut it, brother. Them windows is not near as good. Stick your head out the window, drive down the road. I was like, dang it. But thought it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Today, we got a topic that is deep to us especially, and probably to a lot of people.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think we're kind of starting to see, especially a country, come back to being more of a family-focused society, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
The old school, traditional, whatever you want to call it, kind of family is coming back into the mix now. We're wanting people to get married. We're wanting people to have kids. We're wanting people to take responsibility for themselves.
Yes.
And try to make a community better.
Yeah, that's something. The community piece.
Yeah.
More people are touching on that. I think that's good.
And because a reason that I was thinking about this is I saw a statistic lately, and it was talking about how many more parents signed up to go to their kids' school board meetings than it was last year. And it was like something like, how do I say this? Astronomical, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
It was like 45% more than last year have signed up to go to their school board meetings.
That's pretty impressive.
And I was like, okay, so hopefully we're seeing some people go in there and trying to fight for their kids. Not saying all schools are bad, but we've seen some weird stuff happen in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But getting back on the family aspect, you're an uncle, correct?
Yes.
So you've got to kind of mess around with the family in a different way than I have. I have some cousins that have some kids, but I don't get to see them as much as you would get to see your brother's kid.
Yeah.
How is that going? You're 24 and you're an uncle. What's it like?
It's awesome, but I think I have a very unique viewpoint on it. There's a lot of people out there who are uncles. There's a lot of people whose brothers have children, and they're not really around. They're more, I think the word is, I don't really know if that's the right word. I was thinking like estranged was the word. But you know them, you're like, they're all right. But there's not a closeness there. I do think over the years I have grown closer with my uncles, but it's not the same tight-knitness as like my, what do they call that? I'm trying to think. I call it the core group. So like my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sister now, sister-in-law. I cut the in-law part off. That's ridiculous. She's my sister at this point.
Right.
And so it's going really good. I really enjoy it. There's not one piece of it that I would change. everything is going really good. I put in a ton of effort to be the favorite. And so, like, people are like, oh, John's the favorite or whatever. Well, there's, like, a lot more work that goes into that than it is just, like, it didn't happen by chance. That's what I'm trying to say. I have to put the time in just like anybody else, you know, so.
So I've known you for, it seems like a long time now.
I know.
It might not be, but it seems like we've been best friends since like out the womb. Yeah. So moms were right next to each other coming out and high-fiving. But I know you're a pretty good role model, or I think at least.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of switch to when can I say his name?
I don't know.
Okay. When what is he?
He'd be my nephew. Yeah.
When he was born, was there a switch to become more of a better role model, or were you already?
Oh no, yeah.
So you did make a switch.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've only cussed around him a handful of times. You could count on my two hands. I really, really try hard to watch what I say, and then my actions. I am so crucial on my actions, and I'm very hard on myself. Like, there was one day that I thought I might have took a little too long to change a diaper, and I thought, oh, I'm never going to let that mistake happen again. And I won't. I'm very intentional. Just because, like, imagine if you
Pooped
can't.
on you?
No. He had a pee diaper, and I imagine if you couldn't change your own diaper. You don't want to have pee in there for an extended period of time.
Oh, if I couldn't change it. Okay, got you.
So that's how I think of it. If I had to wear a diaper, I don't want to wear a pee diaper. And so I don't think I was
be butt naked.
I don't think And so I'm watching that stuff more and being more aware, even though it's not really my department. Other people normally take care of that. There happened to be one day where it was my job, and I felt like
tactical diaper swap.
Man, I wish I was that fast.
Right.
Dude.
Right. It'll definitely come one day.
But yeah, no, there's definitely things I've tried to change, and like the way I interact is very intentional. I try to make sure that I never react. It's always an interaction and not a reaction. So if he does something that I don't like, I try to, for one, if I think it's funny, I try not to laugh. So, because if they think it's funny, now it's okay. So I try not to laugh if I think it's funny, even though it's not supposed to be done that way.
Right.
And then, or if there's something that I dislike or I think is like a bad trait, like he was pushing these. We have these really big chairs in our kitchen, and I thought he doesn't need to be scooting those for two reasons. One, that could tip over and be dangerous, not only for him but just in general. And number two, I grew up taught you're going to scratch the floors up, and so a little bit of that kicked in too. But instead of being like getting mad, I crouched down. He knows how to say please, which is amazing. He does it in like sign language. Kids are super smart. I think they need more credit. And I asked him, I said, please quit. Come with me. Let's go in here and play. And so he took his hand off the chair. I picked him up. We went to the living room. We started doing something else. It's as simple as changing the activity we're doing, and we'll do it together. Just getting on to him and then going back to whatever I was doing is not going to work. You have to be intentional.
Right.
And I have to be a part of it.
Yeah. So we're helping Cammy's brother watch over a kid while they're having another kid.
Right.
And so it's awesome. But this is the first time that I've had somebody way smaller age that's been in me and Cammy's house before.
Right.
So I kind of get to play around with how it would be if I was like the cool uncle or if I was the dad or whatever. And I've really got to enjoy it because I'm the same way. It's like if he's there, it's like, and especially if we're doing something together, like this don't even come into play. Like, dude, this is down.
That's a big part of it.
All the time.
Yeah.
So I try to keep with the activities now. The hardest thing, and it's a question that I was kind of wanting us to talk about here, is this is so much of a part of everybody's life now. Like I've noticed a lot of kids as being younger.
Yes.
It's like we didn't have YouTube. That wasn't really a thing. And because what YouTube came out 2012 or something like that, or was it earlier than that? It might have been like 2009, 2000.
Maybe around that time period, yeah.
But or at least I couldn't use it then. And nowadays it's a part of so many people's lives. And I love YouTube. I mean, I use it all the time.
It's a fantastic
But
tool.
there's plenty of times that I could definitely, I don't want, rather it be my kid or somebody else's that I'm watching, to just be indulging in it all the time.
Yeah.
Because there's just, I don't even think grown people's minds can cooperate how much stuff happens all the time. It's like if I'm sitting there on TikTok, which I've stopped using TikTok pretty much,
Right.
and it's a lot nicer, but if I'm sitting there just going on TikTok, especially before I go to bed, dude, my head literally starts hurting because I'm trying to keep up with everything that's happening.
That's going on.
And so you now got a kid that's brain's not even developed yet, and he's watching maybe a YouTube channel that's got all this stuff coming on, because all these videos nowadays are made to keep your attention span, which means stuff's happening like that. And I don't know how good that is for him. And I think it's a certain point becomes addicted. So the question that I always wonder nowadays is like, and I know it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but at what point do you want to allow your kids to start even being like, they'll be aware of it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be somebody that doesn't let your kid have a cell phone until he's like 16, which that's probably something I'm going to try to do. I don't know how Cammy feels about it, but we'll have to talk about it. But, man, everybody else will. I mean, I see 10-year-old kids now walking around with iPhones. So I wonder how the most strategic way for the best results for your kid's life would be when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, how much should you limit it, and then how much should you not? Because going into a question that I had on here is, you now have the chance to see all kind of different things on YouTube or Instagram, whatever it is, and distinguishing between those different role models could be tough. And if men have been growing up, and I'm not saying this is just guys, I mean, I'm girls too. I mean, I couldn't imagine it being a chick and you would go on Instagram,
right,
and you got every dime possible that's taking bikini pictures with herself, and they probably somehow getting money made or something like that, and everybody's wishing that. I mean, like I said, guys, it does the same thing too.
Right.
But what makes somebody a true role model? Like, what are the actions? I mean, is it actions? Is it words they say? Is it all the above? Like, what are some specific traits that you think that makes somebody a good role model? Say you had a kid.
Makes you a good role model?
Makes you
because
a good role
anybody
model.
can be a role model, but to be a good one, it's going to be, because really you're going to be scrutinized. Everything you do is being watched, from the way you treat another person to the way that you treat the people in your household, the way you treat an animal. Those are all going to be ways that they define and understand the world around them. So if you teach, like, if your kids see you and you pet the dog and the dog's good and everything, then they're going to associate it that way. And that's how they're going to think about treating animals, is with respect and kindness. And the same thing goes for, like, the way you talk to people. If I show up to your house and I talk to you and every other word's a cuss word, and the way let's say we're talking about somebody, and I'm always putting them down, and I'm being a person with a very aggressive and negative connotation about things, that's going to be their outlook, and that's how they're going to talk, and that's how they're going to treat probably even you. And so there's.
So if you let's say we had to come up with 5 things that made somebody a good role model.
5 things. How you treat other people. That's going to be, if you treat everybody with kindness and respect that you meet, that's a good trait. Okay.
I would definitely also say a very self-disciplined person is a very, very good trait, because I think that shows a lot of people. I think that's one reason why Andrew Tate blew up the way that he did. He was a guy that everybody believed. I've never met the guy, so I can't ask him straight to his face. That this dude was so disciplined and working hard that now his family's set for life. Yeah. He's able to have all these luxuries. He's essentially famous at this point.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it would be a good thing to see, because I think a lot of the role models that we have are the same thing. I mean, and it's in different avenues and stuff, but like some people that I respect, like C-Bum, like I respect him because he had the discipline every day to try to be better at bodybuilding.
I think that's a really good point because, like one of my favorites is Jocko.
Right.
And, dude, he preaches discipline because guess what? Oh, it's uncomfortable. Oh, it sucks. But if you have the discipline, the results are 10 times whatever that moment is. And if you're like, oh, I'm still tired. Well, if you get up and you get it done or whatever it is, the reward is so much greater. So, yeah, I think that's a really good one as well. So how you treat people with kindness and respect, discipline.
And this might not be a good one, but it's something that I think about when I think of somebody that is a good role model. Now, not all people, obviously, all these things somebody could just because you have one doesn't mean that you're perfect by any means. But when it comes to other people looking up to you, I think a huge one is being healthy. And that might fall a little bit in with discipline.
With discipline a little bit,
so I don't know if we just call that one, but my childhood would have been, I think, way different if I had the circle that I had was, whether it be friends and family, was healthier.
Right.
And I by no means was like the pinnacle of health.
Right.
Still not. But I do think that would be different.
I think that is a very pivotal piece, and it's something. And it's funny because I've been very blessed, thankfully. But people have described me as wise, especially when I tell stories like this. I can remember being in like the 6th grade, and my PE teacher telling me that if you start habits now to stay healthy, and you can continue them throughout the rest of grade school. So from 6th grade to 12th grade, that becomes a lifestyle. It's no longer like a choice you're having to make. It's part of who you are. And it's going to make you a stronger, healthier, longer lasting individual. You're going to have a longer life and a better one. And I do think that that's a vital piece because who is it? It's, I forget his name, Bedros. There's some stuff he says that I'm unsure of, but there's some things. His name's Bedros, Killian.
I don't know who that is, but continue.
He's an entrepreneur. He started several businesses. He helps other people grow their businesses through social media. He was an immigrant. His family was immigrants. He's made something quite great of himself. And he talks about how do you expect your kids to do something if you're not going to do it yourself? So if you're not willing to get up and go to the gym, when you have no leg to stand on, if they go, well, Dad, you're not going to the gym.
Right.
Well, you got me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to the gym.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge, I think, part of it. And so discipline,
because they're gonna see
healthy.
that they're gonna see the actions of that happen.
Oh yeah. Well, and think about this. Think about how many stories you've heard where somebody goes, man, I never realized until I was 18 years old that whenever I was going and doing XYZ with my dad, how much that was going to pay off for me. And now they're 26 and they're healthy and
right,
and they're capable and et cetera. I think it's a very crucial piece. I'm trying to think of what to call it as far as like being a good role model, because everything we're talking about is setting an example. It's all about setting the example by having these qualities. But what would you call it if you treated somebody or all of your interactions were very adult? Everything you do.
So very adult.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I'm at a lack of words to explain what I'm thinking through, because it's like the interactions and how you teach them that is by showing them. And so
I think you
respect. That's what I'm. Oh my gosh, there's like a level of respect there. How much you respect them, how much you respect everybody else, and that goes back to my first one. I'm gonna harp on that a lot.
I was about to say that. I was about to say that was the first one.
I harp on that one so much because I can make examples for a lot of different scenarios.
I think that one that's obviously the biggest one because I think people should love people, and I know that not everybody is a people person,
right?
But I don't think you should ever walk out your house and be like, ugh, like I don't want to mess.
I think it goes beyond that, and having the respect for yourself that goes with like the being fit and being healthy,
for sure,
and being disciplined. But I was also just trying to think of like my day-to-day things that I do that I wouldn't mind them seeing me do, things that I think would actually be beneficial. Like the other day I was working on my brakes and he come out there and he see me doing that. That's a example of being fit and strong.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody out there's ever moved like 35-inch tires. They're so heavy.
Well, I don't even think it has anything to do with that. He just sees that you're taking care of something.
Well, taking care of business. That's part of what you do.
Yeah, you're. I mean, I don't. This is a hard one to come by, but like another good trait. It for some reason that I think what
hard work, dude. Hard work pays off. That was hard.
Yeah.
Changing my brakes. Shout out to you if you're a mechanic and you can do it super easily. God bless you. Guess what? I'd never changed like my brakes all the way to the rotors on my truck before. I'd done the pads. Super easy to do the pads. I never straight up taken the whole everything apart.
Shout out to Shane Gillis.
That's right.
He's a mechanic in tires. Yeah.
But I think that example of doing the hard work and being dedicated, having some level of dedication and discipline, but hard work is like its own piece. If you're not going to put in the effort, there's nothing ever going to come of it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yep.
That goes for everything.
I think, and one other one, I think this would probably be the 5, is that person is not just trying. A good role model to me is a person that's not just trying to make himself better.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good person or a good role model is somebody that tries to uplift and bring other people with him.
Mm.
I mean, I'm trying to think of an example or one that's like not an example, like somebody that I've watched in the past. It's like, you know what, I don't like that. I don't think that was a good move.
Oh, something that you think is not. I've had a few of those recently where like I watched something or I seen something and I didn't like it, and so like it's pushed me away from. Like
I know a lot of people, and I have my own opinions. But going back to Andrew Tate, I know a lot of people don't like the guy, and I'm sure there's a lot of reasons for that. But the one thing I respect for the whole thing is him and his brother. They were with each other till the end, dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm going to jail with him. I mean, it's everything. I mean, Tristan was like, or not Tristan, Andrew was like, if anything's happened to me, it's happened to him. In the good too. I mean, apparently they're both millionaires now,
right?
And if they could come up together and do that, I mean, that's what I have an easier time. Mm-hmm. This is crazy saying this, but now that I really really think about it, you know how much easier of a time I have giving things to people that I really care about versus like giving money to charities and stuff like that. It's because in the end, I don't really know where that money goes.
Right.
But the thing I'm about to give to somebody, I know where it's going, and the chances of it being turned into something is way more bigger than that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do this.
Right.
But I have a pretty good enough judge of character to know this right here will be a bigger benefit than you probably ever will imagine.
Well, I think that even goes back to, I think me and you've had some moments over the years where like I needed help with something or you needed help with something, whatever it was, in whatever capacity. And you don't hesitate because you know the intentions.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm going to help this guy because he's lazy. and
Right.
he can't do it himself, or not. Let's the breaks, for example. Let's say I ask you for help, and it's like, it's not because John can't do it. It's because he wants some help,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not because he can't afford to take it to a shop.
Right.
He'd just rather do it himself,
Right.
right? Which is actually going to save you in the long run. And so there's not a hesitation. It's not like, oh, should I help that guy?
Because
because you know I'm doing good things, and etc. It's not like you don't have any bad taste left in your mouth after you've helped me,
no, not at all.
and vice versa.
I will always, to the day I die,
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather help somebody that's trying to make a difference somewhere
Mm-hmm.
than somebody that's just lazy.
Right.
I mean, and remember, who was I talking about this with? It was at the dinner that we had. I don't know if you were there yet, but we were talking about homeless people. You remember that?
I remember it now.
And this is not me saying that I hate homeless people. Obviously,
Right.
I love people.
Yeah.
I mean, I will hope all people do good, but the people I really hope do good are the people that's really trying.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really, really trying?
Yeah.
And it's like, all I can think about is my buddy Chris.
Yeah.
My buddy Chris at CMT.
Yeah.
You talk about one of the most hardworking, nice guys that I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I would give that dude every vehicle I have out here
Mm-hmm.
because you know why? Because I know that dude's trying.
Yeah.
It's not. I wouldn't let the Jack from Conway Strip drive my truck because he might take $1 from this guy, take $1 from this guy, and then get in his Mercedes Benz and drive off. And I'm not saying everybody's like that.
Right.
But goes back to that one guy that we were talking about. Remember the guy with the business? That is such a good idea. You know why? Because it shows right down to the gills. Do you want to be better?
Mm-hmm.
If I went up to every homeless person that I could ever find and I walked up to them and I asked them straight to their face, I can't give you no money, I can't give you no food, I can't give you no bed, but you know what I can give you is a job. And you can start from there.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. If you say yes, you got my full respect.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people will. So
No, a lot of
that's
people
why I will always bring my team up. That will always be a thing.
That reminds me of something Jocko said. I preach a lot of that too. So if you don't like Jocko or you don't like me harping on love and respect, that's tough. Not going to say sorry. That's just tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
He talked about, think about this, something that you want to get better at and something that you're going to put the effort in. Somebody that's trying. They will do whatever it takes. But if you don't really want it, you'll find every excuse in the world. It's that simple. Really, think about that. Like, imagine if I didn't want to come and do this podcast with you. I could make up any excuse.
Yeah.
Literally, I could come up with like some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But like today's a great example. I had stuff I had to finish up at work. I was going to be running a little late. You didn't question a bit of it. And like when you asked me, I think it was this morning, hey, are you good to do one? Of course. I may be a little bit busy in the evening, but I'll be there.
Right. Yeah. We'll find the time to make it happen.
If 11 o'clock at night works for you, it works for me.
Right. And it doesn't mean I don't want people out there that has tried things and not went through to it just to feel completely bad, because if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
Yeah.
It's like I tell you sometimes and everybody else when it comes to dating, if you sit there and write out on the line the things that they have to have, and that just sounds absolutely terrible the way that I just said that. It's not how I mean it, but you write down your values and your morals and everything, and you're like, I don't want a girlfriend that dips.
Yeah.
You know what? That weeds out. Everybody's like, you know what, man, that's going to be hard. I mean, I know a lot of girls that dip.
Yeah.
It ain't hard. You just weeded out all the ones that's not going to work.
Right.
It actually is going to make it a lot more simpler.
Yeah.
So, if you apply that to everything, and then you find the one thing that you do like, and you do go after it, because we're all going to have moments where we stumble. We're all going to have moments where we don't want to do things.
Oh, yeah.
But just because Jocko might even say something like this, just because you don't do it today doesn't mean you can't do it tomorrow. Or he says something that's around something about that nature. It was something about, maybe it wasn't Jocko, something about leaving the military. He was like, don't quit today, quit tomorrow.
Yeah, don't quit today, quit tomorrow, yeah.
And then it comes to tomorrow, don't quit today, quit tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's part of his mantra, like for people who are going into the SEAL teams, right?
Yeah.
That's a thing that they actually talk about. And so, it's super hard today. We've been carrying this boat for 12 miles down the beach. I think I'm going to quit. If you really want to quit, think it over, do it tomorrow. And if you wake up tomorrow and you're like, nah, I'm not ready to quit yet, I'll do it the next day. And just keep not quitting until the next day. And next thing you know, you've accomplished your goal.
Yeah. And then if there is things that you do, just really be sure. Yeah. Like when I played baseball, and like it was my senior year, I think it was, or something like that. I never played baseball up to that.
Yeah.
The coach, I was a pretty athletic kid playing basketball, and he just thought I'd be good at baseball. Well, I wasn't really that good at baseball, but I didn't have like no passion for it. And that stuff played in my head. It was like, am I giving up on something that's like, am I a quitter?
Yeah.
And yeah, I was, but I didn't leave that regretting that I left that.
Right.
If I did, then you could probably sit back and kind of self-evaluate and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't have quit that. But it's just like the question that people, they don't ask me this near as much because they know my answer by now. But it's like they'll say something about me working at UPS. It's like, you could have been making $100,000 and all this other stuff. I'm like, I'll never forget me walking out that building and smiling because the other doors have now opened.
Yeah.
And this is me going out of this not knowing where I was technically going to go.
Right.
But yeah, dude, it was just, if there's a weight that comes off your shoulders in the end, I think you probably quit for the right reason. But
yeah,
give it some time, try it out over and over again, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and don't be hasty to quit, but don't be afraid of it.
That's right.
That was something in my house. So give it a whole season, right?
Yep.
Like if I never did play sports really, partially for this reason, because I always wanted to have my exit. But my parents was like, if you join, you're going to play the whole season. You're not going to quit your team in the middle of the season just because you're not getting to play as much as somebody else. Which
I always need a hype guy.
I was never big on your traditional sports, but that's a crucial thing, because think about it. If you give it a whole season and you're still done by the time that the season's up for whatever it is, now you could officially say, all right, I gave it a shot for a whole whatever your season is. I'm done. And I think you could walk away feeling no regret.
What do you think about, and when we're talking about being role models, how do you think that comes with mistakes?
That's such a pivotal piece, I think, for a lot of people, but it shouldn't be. It should be as simple as you're going to make them.
Right.
Learn from them.
Right.
And choose to do that. Guess what? You're going to make mistakes that are really bad, and they suck. I can think of some of mine just off the top of my head, talking about treating people with love and respect, people who I didn't give the highest level of that I could. They probably got less than 25% of what I could give. And that's bad to say. Somebody got less than a quarter of what I could give when it come to showing them love and respect. When I realized the mistake I'd made, the weight of that, and knowing how they must have felt, but I learned from it.
Well, how do you answered in a different way than I was thinking, which is good, but it's like, say you have a kid and he watches you make a mistake.
Yeah.
And I don't mean as in
how big a mistake?
It's a question, ain't it? How big's the mistake? Because like how powerful is it if you see your say you saw your dad do something, and you kind of thought to yourself, you were just that age where you're like, I don't know if that was the right thing, but I don't know if that was the wrong thing. He's my dad. He's the guy that I follow more than anything. How important is that for him to come over there and say, little Billy, I was wrong. I messed up.
I think it's huge. And I heard a guy talk about it. He does a podcast. I can't think of his name. Maybe it'll come to me. Nick something. I don't know.
What's he do? You have to give me.
He has. I think he interviews a lot of military people. He's got like a beard, a shorter hair. It's like a gray and black. He's super popular right now. He looks like a manly type of guy.
I don't know.
Can't think of it. I know he'd had a really good talk with John Lovell that I listened to.
I don't know that.
Oh, that's going to be aggravating.
Nope.
But
No, I don't know Nick.
I think his name's Nick. Nonetheless, somebody, or he had made a clip of it, or somebody had asked him, and they had clipped it, and I watched the clip, and he said that he had come home, and he was frustrated about something at work, and his kid asked him something, and he snapped, and he got on to him for interrupting him, and blah, 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 blah. And then one of his older children came to him and said, hey, Dad, I think you were wrong in doing that. I don't think that was the right way to handle that. And he stopped, and he goes, you're right.
No, you're wrong.
yeah. And he accepted it.
Yeah,
and he was like, dude, I felt so bad when I realized how I had handled that. And I was proud of my kid to have the confidence to tell me that. I couldn't imagine coming in and being like, hey, I think you were wrong.
Right.
As a kid, you know.
Right.
And so, and he went back and he apologized and said, hey, that's not how we should treat each other.
Right.
And this is how I should have handled it. And then he did. And really, and I think he goes on to say, you know, like, hey, can I have just a minute and I'll get back to you. I'll be right back. Go talk to your mom. I got to go, you know, relax for just a second. And give that.
A lot of people need to do that.
Yeah. You need to take that separation.
That's right.
But he owned it. You have to own the mistake so that they can see that is the way you're supposed to do it.
Right.
That's what a role model is. It's not just telling them that you made a mistake.
For sure.
You have to role model that this is what you do when you make one.
Right.
It's not just admitting it. It's what do you do now? What's the next step?
Right. That's why, I think it makes it easier, but it makes it harder for us when it comes to being a Christian. Like we have the role model to follow, but we also have the role model to follow to know that you'll never be that good.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
But I used to say every morning, I said, you can strive to be perfect. You'll never get it, but you might be able to come close.
Yeah.
And that's not bad.
No.
Because if we're basing the perfect off of, you remember when it was like being perfect was like a bad thing. Mm-hmm. You were like, that guy's perfect.
Right.
And everybody was like, that dude's a douche or whatever it was. But it's like with us, I say people that believe Jesus is the Lord of everything. Mm-hmm. That if that's perfect, dude, you can call me whatever you want. I don't care. I said, I'll keep trying to strive to be that guy.
Right.
Because luckily we have a book that lays all this out that I need to be reading more of. Yeah. But I don't really know if you could throw that into like the overarching goal of a good role model is I don't think necessarily that because I always weird question. Mm-hmm. When you're growing up, do you think you would be the same way if the word Jesus was never brought up?
Do I think I'd be the same way? I'd be pretty close.
See, I think the same thing because I was like, I remember really like when I was going like really little, I don't ever really remember like my mom and dad sitting down and us having like deep talks about God or anything like that. We still went to church and everything,
Right.
but I was way too young to understand any of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think, even though I did experience it a little bit, I still think my mom and dad harped on this is how you should be. Now, whether they were basing it off of Jesus or they were basing it off of whatever.
It boils down to this, because even if you're somebody who doesn't really have like or maybe I say don't really like, if you don't have a faith system or you don't want one, which is fine, I hope you live in America because that's awesome and you can do that.
Right.
But if you don't have one, or you choose whatever other kind of faith system, the morals, that's what it boils down to. Your values and your morals, which that sums up a couple of our points.
You think you would still be able to pinpoint those if religion was never a thing?
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, just based off of like I'm trying to think, the Army core values, which I have on my my keychain for. I've got two different keychains, but my one bigger keychain, I have it on there. It's got all the Army values as well as the ethos. Shout out to my brother; he gave that to me. I've always carried it. But they set values that they think are good traits and values that people should follow. Because what if you get somebody who's never been taught about values? They literally have just had to live life one day at a time. They didn't really have anybody to be a good role model or a mentor or set the example. And then they join the Army, or maybe they have negative values. And the Army's like, guess what? We don't care. You're going to follow this set because they're good. And they're going to help.
Yeah, but where do you think those were from?
And they're going to help you achieve be your best self.
No, I understand all that. Just where are they from?
Where do they originate? Well, it goes back to the everything old as time type of saying. It is the mindset of you could do good or you can do bad. And you can feel whether you're doing good or bad. Even if you don't believe in a higher power, you know stealing's wrong. This isn't mine. This isn't right. You know that. Whether you want to admit it or not, you know it. Unless you don't, and then those people, that goes down like a deep hole about serial killers being evil. Just saying.
You think they're evil?
Yeah, most of them. They don't feel nothing. They don't feel that it's wrong. They'll tell you that to your face. If you can sit there and tell me to my face, no, I don't feel bad about that. What I did is what I did. Wasn't wrong. You're evil.
I've always wondered that, because it's like, what's that thing when you call when you plead like you're insane? Is there a difference between being insane and being evil?
Like an insanity plea? Yeah, I guess, but most of the people who I think want to plead that, they're guilty. They did it and they knew they was wrong. If you're going to plead insanity, I feel like most people who do it these days are pleading it because they know they're guilty. If the people who are with you, like your team, your legal team, are the ones who want to plead it, not you, if they're like, yo, this dude's crazy, we're going to plead insanity. All right, maybe. But if you sit there and you say with a dead serious face that you don't feel no remorse for the wrongdoings,
you think though, like what was the one guy that killed all the chicks? We went from role models to talking about psychos. Not the ideal role models. Let's go ahead and make that clear.
Ted Bundy.
Didn't right before he died, he prayed and said that he was going to heaven? I think I saw that in the interview.
I don't know.
One of his last interviews, he was talking about it.
But that goes into a whole nother topic. You can say that all day. Anybody can say that.
Well, yeah.
But if you don't believe it in your heart, that's a whole different beast.
Well, it goes back to what I always say about Jesus meeting you at the door. I mean, it does.
It's pretty. That goes pretty hard. I can't lie.
I mean, it. That's what it does.
Yeah.
But at what point can your brain be so lost that you don't even get that chance? How does that happen?
Because I look at it from a very faith or religious standpoint,
Right.
I think that people like that are born and you have one of two things. One, you have a good seed that got dealt a bad hand and became bad, probably not really evil. Then you have ones who are born who, some of them actually dealt a good hand, and they have not too bad of families. They don't have the best, but it's not the absolute worst. There's other people who've made it out of their situation. And instead of turning it around, they thought, you know what? I'm going to do this. And it's a truly like evil thing you could do. And because that they feel that they're doing the right thing, that's like the devil's work for sure, dude.
I wonder how many of those, how many, I don't know if we want to call them psychos or like, do you think what percentage would have not done what they done if they had like a really good closed system? Because it was like I'm trying to think. Was that other guy that killed all the people, Dahmer?
Mm-hmm.
Did he have a good mom and dad?
I don't think so. I think his mom was really abusive and stuff.
What's the percentage that a good role model in his position would have changed that? Because does that make him psycho? That's the thing that I'm wondering.
I do think that plays a large role. I do think there are certain ones, though. There are certain, as they are called, highly functioning psychopaths who... So, like, let me just start with yours. With Dahmer, I do think he had a really bad childhood and stuff, and that played a huge role in the way he ended up turning out.
Because he was one of those guys that was like, he just came out at the end and said, I did all this stuff, I didn't feel anything about it.
Because imagine your role model is somebody who abuses you, and so now you feel that it's okay. That's the normal. They've set the standard, and the standard is you can hurt anybody you want. But there has to be a level where like with him, I know a little bit of the backstory. Like he started out with like animals and stuff in the neighborhood, and he worked his way up. He obviously felt something when he was becoming a killer.
But what do you think the percentage is a good family would have fixed that?
So that's what I was going to get to on the second half. There's certain people you hear about, like I don't remember who it was, but I watched one with my family about a guy, nice guy, had a wife, had kids, and ended up killing I think it was a teenager in his neighborhood.
Huh.
And then tried to, actually I think he got away with it, but all evidence points to this guy doing it. And he had a good upbringing, lived with a nice family, pretty standard. It was like, I think they lived like in Arizona, but a pretty standard, like, you know, went to school, had some friends, went home, had cookouts type of stuff. And at some point, at let's say like 40 years old, was, you know what, this is what I want to do. And went and killed somebody.
You think there's really interesting question. You think due to social media being a thing now, do you think there's more sociopaths now than there ever was? or you think there's less? Because we technically have the technology now to be able to find very interesting individuals pretty quickly now.
I think we have the same amount, or maybe just a little bit more. I don't think we have less.
Because you have way more access now to know way more things than you ever should have.
My argument to say less, I think, is counteractive. I was going to say, for somebody who wants whatever their drive is, whatever drives them to do bad things, they could find it on the internet.
Oh, for sure.
They could find a whatever of it.
Yeah.
Images, stories, videos, it's out there. Gotta be. The internet's a crazy place.
It blows my mind about recently that one Christian school that got shot up. That girl idolized I think from what I've understood with her wearing the T-shirt or whatever, but she idolized the Columbine people. Now, how does that even happen? Like how are you? For one, how are you getting that information? Like at that age, like the Columbine thing happened a long time ago. Now, I say that, but
it's a good ways back.
Yeah, if I wanted to look that up now, dude, I'd have to like deliberately find
information.
That.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like,
don't get me wrong. There's gonna be a lot of reports on it, but you're gonna have to seek the information.
Right. And I wonder nowadays how much social media has a play in that, because we have like Reddit now.
I do think it plays a bigger factor for the fact that, imagine if the difference between you being interested and having nobody who you could talk to about it and it just being a thought. Imagine it, that's how it starts. It's a thought. You're like, I wonder what this would be like. And then, oh well, that was a thought I had at one time.
Yeah, and you walk.
Versus you're like, let me research this.
Let me research this. Yeah.
And now there's 100,000 stories on Google, and you can, or somewhere else, and you're reading and you're getting all this information. You're like, you know what? I'm about this. I like what they're doing. I like what I'm reading. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. They're feeding their own narrative. Whatever story they're telling themselves, they can feed that.
Right. That stuff has always interests me. It's probably why true crime and all that, like those podcasts are like at the top right now, except for like Joe Rogan's and everything. It's just because there's something so interesting in a mind that you can't understand. And you probably can't ever understand it unless you're in it.
Well, that's why going into, like, my mom has enjoyed watching these types of shows and stuff over the years about these types of individuals, because she's in that same boat of people who why do they think that way? Well, the FBI started a program where they would interview other serial killers to track down serial killers, because guess what? If I need to know what is making this guy tick, why is he thinking the way he's thinking? What would make him want to do this, or how would he make his next move? Let me go interview a guy who's done it, because he's thinking those same things. He's going down the same paths. And so they were able to catch more people by doing that.
That stuff blows my mind, because I understand where they're coming from, but it's like you're asking to get information from one of the most crooked people in the world.
That's what's interesting, though. You can't think about it as being like the ones who I call truly evil, the ones who will sit down and tell you, this is what I did, this is how I did it, I don't feel bad about it. What do you want to know? Those people,
I'd like to know my question.
They got some level of enjoyment out of it.
Well, see, my question would be, and I don't know if I've ever really heard anybody, if I was ever to sit down with a serial killer, like if the pod one day lets us go to a prison, and he asked me that, I would try my hardest to come with a level of compassion to try to really know why he did. Why? Like if he said that, what you just said, my next question would be why? Like, why do you think that?
So you ask that, and what if they come back with, because I wanted to?
Where do you think that come from?
he has some level of desire, the same way that I like to go fishing. He wanted to kill people
because there's got to be, especially some of these guys, not all of them, but like whether it's ignorant on the people that was looking or it was brilliant on how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like there's obviously some level of intelligence there.
Well, that's what I just told you. Yeah,
but
those the ones that I'm talking about right now are describing. They're the highly functioning ones. So they're the ones like Ted, who, man, you seen him at the cookout. You know, he has a job. Literally, he lives a life just like me and you, but in his free time or after work, he's a killer.
Do you think did anybody try to be Ted's friend?
Yeah, I think I heard somebody
like not women that's trying to like that he's trying to manipulate.
No, I'm sure because there was some stories that came out about even the police who had apprehended him said he was a very nice, charismatic person.
I know, but I'm imagining me and you being best friends right now, and then you're telling me you're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
For one, the first thing is don't abandon the person, because then they just get pissed and they probably end up going to do it. But I would really want to get down and like why you think that.
Well, what I'm curious on is like with somebody like him, those types of individuals, I think it wouldn't matter. I think just like we've been doing. Like if you were interviewing a guy like that, they would come back with something I feel like, well, I wasn't going to tell you about it. We're good friends. I'm not going to mess that up. You don't need to know. I was taking care of my business on the weekend.
But I don't know. I'd love to get to
imagine if they treated it like a hobby.
Because like a question I would love to know if anybody ever asked Ted. Because didn't he just kill all women?
Yes.
I would have loved to ask him, Ted, did you ever want to get married? And see what his response was to that question. Because would it be yeah, I'm not going to do it anymore? Or would it be no, I'm going to keep going? I mean,
that's real quick, that's something I find interesting. Is like
because there's always going to be a question that will probably break somebody.
Is there though? That's why when I said earlier pure evil, that's what there's not many of them. There's a lot of them that are going to claim it. There's a lot of them out there, I think, who are going to be like, "No, I did it just because." And they're deep down, they have some kind of hurt or pain. But I think there's probably a select few, a small group of ones that are truly rotten. And there's no help for them. There's nothing. They could have it all and still be a killer. And those are the ones.
But Jesus says all can be forgiven.
Hey, that's what makes him the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, buddy.
That's why it makes me. What would you think if Jesus sat down in front of a serial killer?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think you'd ask him? You think he'd ask him anything?
God.
Or you think he would just be like,
oh.
What would he ask him?
Well, based off of watching this TV show, so that's probably not going to get me a lot of backing, but based off watching The Chosen and trying to think, which I've not gotten to his part of the good book yet, which I'm excited for. It's going to be a little bit ways down the road by the amount I get to read every day, but that's nonetheless. I feel like it would be something along the lines of, it would have to do something. It would have to do something with like their soul, like what, like why are you in pain?
Because technically, yeah, it would be something like that.
Yeah, like what's hurting you that causes you to hurt other people? You know, I think he would ask something like that.
I wonder how often that gets asked from us.
Not enough. I can tell you that.
Because that's
something. So it goes back to stuff. I hear a lot of stuff about leadership all the time. Thankfully, you need to be reminded more often. You need to be taught. With the whole, there's like 3 things that people need that come out of like stuff like this that can really break down a relationship. And there's either something that they're hurt by, there's something they need, or there's something they're afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So like, let's say me and you do something that I feel like is disrespectful. Okay? And you're like, John, you've been acting weird. What did I do that hurt you? What did I do that you're caused fear, or what's something that you need?
Yeah.
After that, and I come to you and I said, man, I was hurt that you didn't ask me to come to the party the other day, and I need to feel more invited. And I'm afraid that we're not going to be friends no more because I didn't get invited. Imagine if I covered all 3 right then. And you come back with, man, I'm glad you told me that. Freaking boom. We're going to be better friends now, dude. Obviously, if you want to. Because you could come back with, I didn't know that. I'm glad you told me. Imagine if you're just like, oh, John's pissed at me. Don't know why. But you never asked why. And those are like the big 3 that cause stuff to go down.
So yeah, I guess you just got to be
intentional.
Yeah, you got to be willing to answer the why.
Yeah, and you got to be open to it. Because guess what? It may have been something that was like, it might be tough, like I said earlier.
Because if someone wants to ask, like, why I am the way that I am,
mm-hmm.
and they're being sincere about it, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Do you know they're being sincere? But if they're being sincere about it, is that already one step into trying to make yourself better? Why I am the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the people that we know, or we don't know them, but we knew them to be psychos. I think they did ask that question. Like, I think Dahmer said in the interview, I don't know why I am the way that I am. I wonder that. I wonder why I don't feel anything when I do this. Now, like I said, is he being genuine about it? I don't know.
I think there's a few of them that said it. I don't know about all of them. I've heard some interviews from some of these guys, and some of them were just like, I don't know. I just wanted to.
I think that's why we've said this a ton, is you got to figure out the why. The why is what makes a friendship.
Who I talked to somebody else about the why recently. I talked to somebody else about
Me.
it. But if you apply that to everything, why? It
Not
really,
the who, what, when, where, whatever, all the other ones that wasn't the Spy Kids song. It's the why.
Yeah, that's a very crucial perspective.
Yep.
Why?
Yep. I would rather, if you could word that in a question,
mm-hmm.
and ask somebody, guaranteed way to make a new, better interaction. I challenge every sucker watching this video to do this, because we're coming to the end of the pod right now, is if you ever want to start a great conversation with somebody,
yeah,
find a way to figure out something they want to talk about,
mm-hmm.
or like a passion about something,
mm-hmm.
or something like that, and then ask why. That leads into so many doors.
That could take you down a path
That could take you
there.
That multiple things. Heck, I was with Steve, with our Kennemetal rep, a couple days ago. Shout out Steve Melton. I don't know if you ever watch this, but I love you, buddy. We were sitting down, and he was telling me, he goes, dude, I have a passion for the metalworking. And I said, why? And he was like, are you ready for this story? and it's like that. There's so many good stories in there, and you could use that in every place. I mean, you imagine going up, you finally got enough nerves to go up to this chick in the gym or whatever, and you say hi, and you introduce yourself and everything like that. And, you say something around you definitely know in common you both work out.
Yeah.
And you say, well, I see you like coming to the gym. And she's like, I love it. And then you ask, why? That's the question that I love people asking me.
Yeah.
And I know it's the people they love asking you because you now get to the door's open.
Yeah.
You're inviting them in the living room.
Yeah.
And you're about to show them the whole house.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I challenge everybody to go do that. Just find a way to ask somebody why.
I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. And I think you could apply that even to your own things. Like if you see something, let's say there's a girl you're afraid to talk to her. I don't know how many people listen to this podcast have this problem.
6'5". Yeah.
And you're like, man, I'd really like to talk to her. Apply it to that. Why? And if you're like, man, because of
She's
these
good
reasons. But more than that, imagine if you can really pinpoint it.
But you don't know her yet.
Yeah, but just based off of this, just be like, man, I thought, if you can really like lay out like, man, I thought she was really pretty the other day when I seen her.
Nice curves.
And I remember, yeah, sure, maybe that's a why. And I thought she walked by me, I thought she smelled good, XYZ. Like if you have a list of things on why you come to that conclusion, not just because, oh, I don't know, I just seen her in the gym, thought she was kind of cute. Why'd you think she was cute though? If you don't have a why,
yeah.
then you're not going to have a drive.
Yeah.
But if you're like afraid, tell yourself those whys, those reasons.
Right.
And then go do it. It may not work out for you.
Yeah.
But at least you have a good thing you can tell yourself on why you should do it. Same thing for anything else.
Yeah.
Any other decision you need to make. Why? Why did I want to buy a boat? Well, because somebody told me I could.
Yeah, that's right. That's powerful. I mean, what we talk about it almost once a week. Why did we start this podcast? Because we like to question things because we want to know the truth.
Yeah.
That and that is something that we strive to do.
Yeah.
We're the groups of people that want to know the real ins and the outs of anything. Like in this case, we were talking about role models and got to psychopaths.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to know things, and the why that we like to do this is the extra thing about this is when we're able to have other people on.
Yes.
We get to see their whys, and their whys might open doors to this why and this why and this why and this why.
Yeah, and that extra
That's why I have a why in Dylan.
But yeah, exactly. That's perfect. It was funny because we had David on, David Dinkins, and
Saw him a couple of days ago.
good. I hope he was doing well.
He is.
Good.
Shout out to that guy. You're going to be on the pod soon, brother. I swear.
But he had told me about, I think it was a book. I'd have to go back to rewatch the podcast. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
The Bible.
I think it was him who told me the Screw Tape by C.S. Lewis, I think. The Screw Tape Letters, which is a book.
Sounds familiar.
Somebody else was talking about it, and I thought, oh, David told me about that. I need to read that.
Yep.
And so it's on my list for this year. That's one thing I'm going to read. Shout out to him. And I'd have never came to that conclusion if we didn't have a why should we bring David on the podcast.
Right.
Well, because he brings a whole new outlook.
That's it.
And then I learned something from him.
Yep.
So
another little challenge here at the very, very end. If you made it to the end of the podcast, shout out. We love you guys and love doing these things. If you have made it, write in the comments, why do you watch us? I'd like to actually know that.
Yeah.
Is it because we bring a new perspective? Is it because we're funny? Is it because we're Christian? Whatever.
Yeah.
Write it down there in the comments because I want to get back with you guys because I talk about it all the time. Why I love comments. I mean, I'm a comment king in everything.
Goodness, he is, man.
I'm in them. If you ever see me on me commenting on some other YouTube video, get in there and be like, dude, this is the guy from Skeptics Podcast.
This guy has tagged me just so I can read it. He'd be like, did you see the comment I put?
Yeah. I love comments. I love getting to talk with people. It's awesome. But anyway, guys, we love you. John Boy, you got anything else?
Hope Hope you have a good day, whatever day you're watching this, and God bless you. That's all I got.
God bless you guys. We'll see you in the next one. This has been Skeptics Podcast number 23, and we are out. Whoop. What was it? Yeet. Yacht.